them that awesome purple sapphire.
Both of their faces lit right up, and I knew it was going to be theirs.
I remember when they came in to pick it up. He made her wait outside, he brought it out to her and proposed right on the steps of Walker Metalsmiths.
It was great. The ring is nice, too.
I think Steve likes telling stories just as much as he loves making jewelry.
I miss seeing our customers, but you can still connect on Facebook, Instagram, and through our website at walkerscelticjewelry.com.
And in this second half of the 1 Hour Newsmaker show today, we're doing a lot more of those these days with all the COVID news. We have on with us State Senate Democrat candidate Leslie Danks Burke from Tompkins County. Leslie Danks Burke, thanks for calling in.
So glad to join you, Brian. Thank you.
Leslie Danks Burke, I wanted to start out. You do some advocacy work, I believe, related to the COVID-19 situation.
Well, I think all of us that are able are stepping up in ways that we can. And yes, one of the things that I'm seeing out there is that there are a lot of small business owners who can't navigate the red tape, can't completely understand what it is they're supposed to be doing with their business at this point. And my view is if we lose those little entrepreneurs, right, all those shops up and down Main Street in every one of our small towns, then we're going to be in a much worse fix 6 months from now than we would be if we found a way to help them get through this crisis. So I'm doing what I can as an individual person to help as many small business owners as I can so that they don't go bankrupt and we have to find new entrepreneurs to fill vacant storefronts in the future.
Leslie Danks Burke, as long as we're on the topic, what would you tell the small businesses listening? What kind of advice would you give?
My advice is take advantage of the opportunities that are out there. The Department of Labor has improved its website. A lot of us were shaking our heads about a week and a half ago because the website kept crashing. Anyone who was trying to apply for unemployment could not get through. I was hearing stories of 200 phone calls at a time. They've updated that in the last few days, so give it another shot, folks. Get in there, see if you can work with your employees. If you've decided to lay people off, there's money out there to help get through this. And if you aren't getting the answer you want, then push again, try again, call your local, your local elected official, call your state elected official, and let us all know what it is that you need to get through this process.
Leslie Danks Burke, on your campaign for state senate, you're running against Senator O'Mara. You're doing, and Sean Hogan, I think, touched on this the other day when he was on, and that was that Thursday morning, Friday morning. Sean Hogan came on in the place of Tracy Matrano, and he talked about how a lot of the campaigning is now being done online. I would guess it's all being done online. Am I correct?
It is. In my campaign, we're taking the stay-at-home recommendations very, very seriously. We've moved as much as we can online. The challenge with that, Brian, is that Internet access where we live is not widely available. There's a lot of people who are struggling already, even before the COVID crisis, to get online and make sure that they can get their day-to-day work done, whether it's filing their small business taxes or helping their kids do homework or whatever it is they need to do with Internet. They can't get it done because, the big corporations that were supposed to, under Governor Cuomo's 2015 plan, they were supposed to finish building out last-mile Internet. And they didn't do that. They didn't get the job done there. So we need to hold those folks accountable if they're going to be receiving state tax dollars and get Internet to everybody. We're really seeing that in our campaign, that it's hard to reach everyone. But that said, we have moved everything online, and we see a real opportunity there to raise concern about these issues that were already there before the COVID crisis.
Leslie Danks Burke with us live in this half hour of the Newsmaker show. You mentioned Governor Andrew Cuomo there. Wanted to ask you, Leslie Danks Burke, your thoughts on the job that the governor is doing with the COVID-19 situation in New York State.
I think that Governor Cuomo is showing real leadership in a crisis, and I am proud to watch that every single day with his, noon hour commentary on where we are. He's keeping people informed. That said, I really want to see more action on the ground that begins to address some of the problems we're going to have going forward. I've been watching really closely what Mayor Buckley and Hornell and the county administrator in Steuben County, Jack Wheeler, have been pointing to, which is a real increase in the number of deaths that we're seeing in Steuben County. We're starting to see a wave move toward our rural communities. And we don't want to see the same thing happen here that happened in New York City. Honestly, they were taken unprepared in New York City. They did not, get moving early enough, I think, to address the real challenge of how this virus transmits from one person to another. And I really applaud Mayor Buckley and County Administrator Wheeler for the job they're doing to get the word out about staying home. It sure feels odd to stay home when you can't see that it's helping. When it's actually helping, you don't see an outcome. But that's what we want. We want to see those numbers of people who are getting sick go down.
Leslie Danks Burke, back to the governor. A lot of speculation, and a lot of it's coming from conservatives that Governor Andrew Cuomo will run for president or be drafted by the Democrats and replace Joe Biden because people are saying that, and again, a lot of this is coming from the opposition, that Joe Biden is aging quite a bit these days, and the conservatives are largely arguing that Governor Andrew Cuomo would be the guy. The governor was very emphatic yesterday that in a press conference that he does not, was it Saturday or Sunday? It's all running together now, but he was very emphatic that no means no. He does not want to run for president. Do you think he's just saying that because it would be awkward for him to admit that he could be interested in such a thing at this time during the middle of this COVID thing, or do you think Cuomo means it? He wants to be the governor of New York State.
Well, we have a process in our democratic republic that generally plays out, and I think that the Democratic primary has been playing out in a particular way, and we see a conclusion to that on the horizon with former Vice President Biden having won the vast majority of the electoral votes in the primary. So it would be a hard whiplash moment for Governor Cuomo to try to throw his hat in the ring, and I think that he's an astute politician, like a lot of astute politicians out there, and probably knows that really isn't going to fly, I think, with the Democratic base. That said, I think we're looking for real leadership right now, and I think that this call for anyone who is standing up and taking action to have a leadership role is really an indication that, we as a public don't see real leadership at the top. Completely honestly, President Trump is the same age as Vice President Biden, and I don't see a real organized federal response rolling out to this. I see individual governors stepping up and taking leadership roles. So what we're crying out for as a people is our elected leaders to step up and solve some of these problems.
Speaking with Leslie Danks Burke on today's 8:30 segment of the Newsmaker show. Leslie Danks Burke, in our last half hour, we touched on the topic of the budget that just passed in Albany, and it passed without a lot of notice because of the reporters all focusing on COVID-19. Did you have any thoughts on the state budget?
I watched what happened with the budget. I watched my opponent, Senator Tom O'Mara, vote against school funding, vote against rural health care, vote against a lot of the things that we really need in our communities to grapple with COVID and also grapple with the problems that we had in our region before COVID. There were a lot of folks out there who wanted to kick the can down the road and punt and not deal with a budget right now in a crisis time. I don't think that shows leadership. I think we need people who are going to get in there and make swift, decisive, correct action to address the problems that our communities are seeing. There's a lot of people out of work. There's a lot of children who can't access their school right now because the schools have been shut down and maybe they don't have internet at their houses or they don't have the support system they need to get online. I can't wrap my mind around the idea of cutting school funding, cutting health care, cutting money to our small businesses in that kind of environment.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with Democrat State Senate candidate Leslie Danks Burke. Stay with us.
The service department at Maple City Dodge is open. Automotive service work is essential work, and Maple City Dodge is able to assist. They're asking customers to allow them to work with minimal contact, so they'll happily pick up, sanitize, and return your vehicle. The sales department is also available. You can talk to one of their sales guys. They're working from home and making great deals. To set an appointment with service or sales, call Maple City Dodge or reach out to them through Facebook Messenger. Maple City Dodge in Hornell, proud to be serving you.
Checking in now with meteorologist Rob Carolyn. Rob, we've been saying it could get up to 55 miles an hour today. What's the latest there?
It's 55 is a pretty good guess, Brian. I think gusts to 55, maybe even as high as 60 miles an hour across some of the higher hilltops is a possibility a little later today. This is the same weather system that caused all the problems down across the deep south Easter Sunday. We had reports yesterday of 51 tornadoes, Louisiana, Mississippi, parts of Georgia, and Tennessee. We're not concerned about tornadoes here, but what's going to happen is there are very strong winds just off the surface, about 4,000 feet up in the atmosphere. It's blowing at about 60 to 70 miles an hour, and some of that's going to try to come down to the ground today. That's why the National Weather Service has us under a high wind warning through 11 p.m. We'll be looking at some passing showers and storms. The heaviest rain has moved by, but there's some activity right now with that upper-level energy in Ohio and Kentucky. That's going to go across us today. That's why we'll see the showers. Some of those thunderstorms around midday could be quite strong. It'll be windy again. Gusts 55 or 60 miles an hour are possible. Warm today, 65 to 70. Lots of cold air comes in behind this system. It's very energetic. We'll have showers tapering off to maybe a flurry or two tonight. Windy, colder overnight, 30 to 35. Sunshine, breezy, cool for tomorrow, 45 to 50. Clouds tomorrow night, 25 to 30. Brian, we could have a few rain or snow showers on Wednesday. Highs are only going to be 40 to 45.
Back with Leslie Danks Burke here on the Newsmaker Show, Democrat State Senate candidate. Leslie Danks Burke, Spectrum is reporting this morning that the New York State Nurses Association last night spoke out in favor of Governor Andrew Cuomo's plan to issue an executive order requiring employers to provide essential workers with face masks when interacting with the public. Wanted to get your thoughts on that, and also, I'll have a follow-up question afterwards. Go ahead.
That is a no-brainer to me. That makes absolute sense that our public sector employees like nurses should be able to have access to protective equipment. That doesn't just help the nurses. Absolutely, it helps the nurses. But it also helps everyone around the nurses. If you're standing in a grocery store line and you see somebody in scrubs there wearing a mask, that person is more likely than not wearing that mask to protect you, so that any germs that person might be carrying aren't going to float through the air and infect other people around them. That's what this whole social distancing is to press down the number of people who are getting sick at one time so that we can all take care of each other and our hospitals are able to handle the number of sick people.
Leslie Danks Burke, Spectrum has another story about criminal justice advocates asking the governor to release some of the prisoners from state prisons in New York. You're an attorney, guessing you have a view on this.
I am concerned about the outbreak that I see in prisons. It's not just prisoners who are getting sick. We see correctional facility staff that are really experiencing illness at a much higher rate than the general population, and you're going to see that anytime you have a whole lot of people in a confined small space. That's a big part of why we saw that outbreak hit New York City first. We saw people on subways, next to each other. Each subway car turns into sort of an incubator for a lot of people getting sick. And you see that same challenge in prisons. If we're able to allow people who aren't a threat to society, who aren't a challenge in any particular way, to be able to escape that environment, that helps not just the sick prisoners, but also the correctional facility staff who are required to show up there every single day in those incubators of this illness. And that's a very scary proposition for those staff.
What do you think of the direction that the governor's gone so far as in the topic of prison closures? Do you agree with Governor Cuomo there that some of the prisons needed to be shut down, that there was too many, or did you have a contrary view? Your thoughts there, Leslie Danks Burke.
Are you talking about before the COVID crisis?
Yes.
Yeah, when we're in a situation where we have, we have people who are getting locked up because they're poor, and we have other people who can buy their way out because they're wealthier. My mind goes to the Republican majority leader in the New York State Assembly who, was able to buy his way out of a DUI or DWI. That's the kind of system that rewards people who can buy their way out and really slams down hard on people who can't afford that. And I think we need to look very closely at that inequitable system. So Governor Cuomo is taking a look at that. I'm not sure he's going about it in a strategic way. I think that he's getting press headlines more than anything else on this, but I sure think it's a conversation that we need to have.
Seeing on your Facebook page, Leslie Danks Burke, it says big business is, this is about grocery store workers and clerks and etc. Big business is catching up on the appeal of honoring their minimum wage workers. Sam's Club ran an ad that you say cost over $200,000. Thanking their retail workers. Uber purchased a full-page ad in the New York Times recently for over $150,000 to honor Uber drivers. You say in your statement here, it's never been so important to thank grocery store checkers and give generous pizza delivery tips. Many fair-minded employers look out for their employees, and COVID-19 exposes life for many workers. Sick leave is paltry, and wages don't cover rent and groceries in the same month. Comment on that statement you made for us.
You got it. So, sure, it's great to thank our grocery store clerks. It's great to pay attention to all the people who are out there on the front lines, the nurses, the teachers, the delivery people, all the folks who really did not sign up to be on the front lines of a crisis. They're just going about their day-to-day jobs, but here they are designated as essential employees. Yes, we should absolutely thank those people, but thanks doesn't pay the rent. And what I'm saying is that if a company can afford to pay $250,000 to thank people on the, in the New York Times, then maybe they could look at, raising people's salaries a little bit. That's a lot of money, $250,000, and it could be divided up among a lot of employees and really make a difference in their life. I'm really questioning the big corporations that are doing blanket thank yous, but not actually treating their employees all that well. And, in that op-ed that I wrote that you were reading from, I pointed out that Uber and Lyft drivers don't have access to the same employee protections that others do. If they lose their jobs, they can't apply for unemployment. like other people who are losing their jobs right now. And that shakes out on all of us. When someone loses their job and they have to go into the social safety net, that costs tax dollars for all of us. And we need to make sure that these companies are treating their employees right so that the employees can provide for their families, and also so that the rest of us aren't having to pick up the cost when the company doesn't treat them well.
Leslie Danks Burke, down to the last 60 seconds. Any final thoughts? And if you could give us your website, Facebook page addresses, and things like that.
My final thoughts are this is a real opportunity to see how we can come together as a community. It is amazing to me to see how many people are stepping up and helping their neighbors right now, Brian. It's just extraordinary. People are watching out for fellow citizens in nursing homes. People are donating to food pantries. People are, driving meals and computers around to children who are shut in at home and can't access their schoolwork and aren't getting access to school-provided meals. It's amazing to me what we're doing as a community. And I think we can do that better in non-crisis times, too. I really believe that we can come together and start to solve some of these challenges that we're seeing. But goodness gracious, we have got to start holding our leaders accountable. This region has had 40 years of neglect. We have not had a seat at the table. We have not had someone in there fighting for us. And sure, we're taking care of our own, and goodness, it's amazing to see how we're doing that. But we need our leaders to step up, too, and that's why I'm running for state senate. My website is leslieforsenate.com, LeslieForsenate.com, and I encourage anyone out there who has ideas about how we can make this better to get in touch with me through my website, because I am listening and talking with folks every chance I can to solve some of these problems, and I know we can do better.
Leslie Danks Burke, I want to thank you so much for coming on today.
I really appreciate it, Brian. Thanks for keeping local journalism going in this crisis. You folks are heroes to keep us connected with each other.
Well, thanks so much. Thank you, Leslie. It's AM 1480 WLEA Hornell.